Are you surrounded by narcissists? Man, that is a heavy question, isn't it? But look, today we're going to build a whimsical, yet honestly a highly practical survival guide against those toxic people who might just be draining your energy and, frankly, impacting your mental health. So, let's dive right into this explainer. We're looking at Thomas Erikson's eye-opening book, Surrounded by Narcissists. And I am thrilled to walk you through this because let me tell you, it is packed with tools that can genuinely protect your peace of mind. Here's our roadmap for today. 1. Decoding the true narcissist. 2. The 4-color personalities. 3. Tactics to outmaneuver them. 4. Boundaries and cutting ties. And 5. The modern narcissism epidemic. Section 1. Decoding the true narcissist, the threat to your sanity. Right off the bat, we need to dispel this super common myth that narcissism is just about vanity. You know, we aren't talking about the old myth of Narcissus staring lovingly at his own reflection in a pond. No, real-life narcissism is a complex personality disorder. It's characterized by manipulative, deceitful, and psychologically damaging behavior. They actively prey on the people around them, and the scariest part, victims often don't even realize what's happening until it's way too late. Now, the rarity of this is striking, but the severity? It's terrifying. Only about 1 to 2% of the population has true narcissistic personality disorder. But here's the massive catch. It literally cannot be cured. True narcissists actually benefit from manipulating people, so they simply do not feel any need to change. Ever. So how exactly do they operate? Well, they rely on these devastating behaviors. Things like gaslighting to make you actually doubt your own sanity, and love bombing to trap you incredibly quickly. Add in lying, cheating, and playing constant mind games, and you've got these highly calculated strategies specifically designed to damage a victim's mental health. Section 2. The 4-color personalities. Choose your character. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, hey, I'm way too smart to fall for this. But listen, even the experts get fooled. A researcher once lent his literal Mercedes to a narcissist and never saw it again. Gone. Anyone can be manipulated. So, to defend yourself, we're going to use the DISC behavior system. We'll visualize some really vibrant, colorful cartoon character archetypes to help identify exactly where your personal vulnerabilities might lie. Let's meet our first colorful cartoon archetype, the red personality. Picture this: highly driven, dynamic, fast-talking character who is just a fantastic problem solver. But their kryptonite? A constant, burning need for control. A narcissist will completely weaponize this. They'll create these chaotic situations, basically forcing the red character to step in and take charge, subtly manipulating them into doing their dirty work. Next up is our bright yellow personality. Imagine a bubbly, relationship-focused extrovert who is absolutely the life of the party. But behind that big smile, they struggle deeply with isolation or rejection. Their intense fear of being left out makes them prime, and I mean prime, targets for love bombing. A narcissist will just shower them with fake affection, and the yellow character will latch right on, totally terrified of losing that connection. Then there's the green personality. Visualize a gentle, warm-hearted introvert. They are deeply empathetic, supportive, and kind, but they are highly averse to change and conflict. Narcissists are absolute experts at spotting this kind of empathy. They'll exploit the green's gentle nature, knowing full well that this character is going to avoid conflict and rarely, if ever, fight back. Finally, we wrap up our cartoon roster with the blue personality. Picture a highly thoughtful, fact-focused introvert, maybe quietly analyzing data behind a desk. But their hidden vulnerability, it's a deep-seated fear of public humiliation. A narcissist will use the subtle threat of embarrassment or public shaming just to keep the blue in line. So take a quick second. Which of these colorful characters do you relate to the most? Because honestly, knowing your own weaknesses is your very first line of defense. Section 3. Tactics to outmaneuver them. The battle plan. All right, now that we know our vulnerabilities, here are some highly practical steps to actually escape a toxic conversation. Step 1. Call out the manipulation calmly. Take control back by simply stating you feel they're trying to manipulate you. Step 2. If you're stuck, use a really simple excuse like a dying phone battery to just hit pause. And step 3. Take time to breathe and decompress. Refusing to be impulsive and staying calm, that is exactly how you see through their tactics and win. Section 4. Boundaries and cutting ties. Protecting your peace. If you're looking at long-term survival with a manipulative partner or family member, you have got to set a rigid framework.
You must clearly state your needs and provide very specific examples of unacceptable behaviors that you are just no longer going to tolerate. You basically have to loudly dictate the terms of how you expect to be treated to protect your own emotional well-being.
But, we have to be realistic about power dynamics here. Suppose you have a narcissistic boss. You often can't just dictate the terms to them. It's a hard truth. In situations like that, creating physical and emotional distance is sometimes the absolute only boundary you can actually enforce to protect yourself from their controlling behavior. And what if you set those boundaries and the manipulative, abusive behavior still continues? Well, consider this your official permission slip. You must prioritize yourself and cut ties entirely. Remember what we said earlier? True narcissists rarely change without intensive professional therapy. Walking away isn't quitting. It's a necessary, heroic act of self-preservation. Section 5. The modern narcissism epidemic. The swarm. Let's zoom out and look at how this builds on a macro level. Psychologists Twing and Campbell argue that narcissism is becoming dangerously widespread. And why is that? Well, the explosion of social media, the massive boom in the self-help industry, and this pervasive cultural desire to just get something for nothing. These elements are breeding what they call collective narcissism, which is normalizing toxic self-centered behaviors in everyday groups. I know, it sounds like this overwhelming cultural tidal wave, but there is fantastic news here. Culturally, sure, there's no quick fix. But protecting ourselves individually from these toxic group dynamics, it's actually easier than we think. By applying that four-color system we just discussed and rigidly using your boundary tactics, you can keep yourself perfectly safe from this collective swarm. Which leaves us with one final provocative thought. Is your social media feed feeding the collective narcissism monster? Are you, even unknowingly, participating in toxic group dynamics? I highly encourage you to consider a digital detox. Step back, shift your focus, and apply this new survival manual in your real-world relationships. Protect your peace of mind, know your color, and absolutely do not let anyone manipulate your narrative.